Hi there, I'm John Video Game. So you want to be a game designer? My first piece of advice is to ditch all those crazy ideas you have. Just start small. Make something simple. Like Pong. Pong is a great place to start because of how dreadfully boring it is. Come on. Why haven't you made Pong yet? You know what? I've got a better idea. Why don't we just try writing Hello World on the screen?
Alright, stop it right there. Listen, are you tired of getting advice like this? Come on, let me show you something. Newsflash, nobody wants to make Pong. But if you're anything like I was when I first started game dev, you've been trying to make games that are just too big. When I was first starting out, I didn't want to start small, I wanted to jump right into the good stuff. And of course, because of that, I was never able to finish anything. I found myself trying to create these lofty ideas that were way above my skill level. So, how do we combat that? Today we're going to talk about making small games the right way, setting a manageable scope while still making something really cool. We'll be looking at an awesome little game called Gun Rounds, as well as a few other good examples. So if you're tired of abandoning projects and you want to set your sights on something that you can actually finish, you've come to the right place. I'm Jack Green, and this is Cyberplays. So let's take a look at Gun Rounds. It's a turn-based shooter developed by Blabberf and released in 2020. The entire game can be played just by clicking, or tapping if you're on mobile. Each round, you're faced with a group of enemies. On your turn, you choose an attack, aim, and fire. On the enemy turn, you have the opportunity to block incoming bullets by clicking when they enter your block radius. Now, each attack uses a certain amount of ammunition, and well-timed blocks will refill a bit of your ammo. You can also spend a turn to refill completely. Doing this, however, makes your block radius smaller for that turn. This is pretty much the entire concept, but it's executed so well that it grabbed my attention immediately. Blabberf clearly knows what he's doing. He's taken a simple idea and capitalized on it to the extreme without ignoring scope. Speaking of which, what is scope anyway? It's basically the term that just refers to the size of your project. For example, Pong has a very small scope, while Red Dead Redemption 2 has a massive scope. A common problem for designers is scope creep, which is when you set your initial scope to something you can manage, but then it gets out of control as development progresses. If you've tried making a game at all, you've probably experienced this. One minute you're promising yourself that you're just going to make a simple endless runner, and the next you're adding extra costumes, online multiplayer, a battle royale mode, and a fully orchestrated soundtrack by Hans Zimmer featuring Pitbull. As game designers, we inherently love coming up with new ideas for our games, especially when that game is in its first stages. But this is when scope creep likes to plant its evil seeds, and as good designers, it's our responsibility to suppress the urge to add more and focus on the core idea. Which is why I've invented this! It's the new hybrid play Scope Creep Bonk Bat! The best way to keep yourself from coming up with new game features. It's easy to use! Just hit yourself with the Scope Creep Bonk Bat every time you feel the urge!
Maybe I could have alternate weapons. And even crafting. Oh, what am I saying? Stupid!
And if that doesn't work, you can sign up for the premium plan, where Jack comes to your house himself!
Maybe I should add a skill tree.
Stop thinking of new game ideas!
And just like that, no more creep!
I've been using the scoping creep, the scope creep bat, the bat bonker, the scope creep bonk bat for 17 months, and I think, honestly, I'm in perfect health, and it's been going really well for me. I haven't added any crap to my game.
The hybrid play Scope Creep Bonk Bat! $25.99.
Whoa! That's a steep price. What about those of us that can't afford such an amazing product? Let's talk about some less expensive ways that you can avoid scope creep.
The reason I want to talk about Gun Rounds is because it does simple right. This is a game that anyone could make, theoretically speaking. All you need to do is analyze what's going on under the hood. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I think the success of Gun Rounds can be broken down into 4 different topics. Let's start with the first. A wise man once said, "Keep it simple, stupid." Complicated games with tons of features are great, but when you're making your first game, keeping things simple is going to save you a lot of heartache. To play Gun Rounds, you only need to understand 2 things, the shooting phase and the blocking phase. Both phases are controlled just by clicking, so you don't even have to remember to use different buttons. The combat overall is really just the regular turn-based routine we've seen before, but with a twist. Instead of attacks being guaranteed, you have to do the aiming and blocking yourself. This minor change suddenly turns Gun Rounds into a game about precision and reaction time. This kind of gameplay means that skill takes precedence over decision making, and games that require a certain level of skill are good at making up for a lack of content. You'll have fun replaying the same levels over and over again if you're constantly trying to get better and better. Think of it this way, if your game can be described as easy to learn, hard to master, you're probably on the right track. The artwork in Gunrounds is, in my opinion, amazing. The whole game is done in 2 colors, but no amount of detail is lost here. Every enemy is bursting with character. They all move in different ways, all have unique attacks, and all look fantastic. There are a million different art styles out there, and I'm not saying that you should do the exact same thing as Gunrounds, but it's worth noting that this is definitely a much easier task than something higher res or something with a large color palette. When you're making your first game, it's better to choose an aesthetic that will be quick and easy to create. Gunrounds doesn't need many assets before you can get it working. If we break the game down to its major pieces, be them objects, sprites, or other assets, we get a pretty short list. You've got the player, the enemy, the attack card, the reload function, the blocking function, chests, and projectiles. I mean, that's your core right there. You could probably prototype this in a day. The content of Gunrounds comes from simply altering these pieces. Create a cast of enemies, some more attacks, and split the rounds up into levels, and you've already got a game. This point leads perfectly into the last topic of this breakdown. Gunrounds is a game that you can infinitely add content to. Making an enemy is easy, just draw it and come up with its attack. New gun cards are easy too, there's a lot of freedom in how a projectile might act. You could add as many biomes as you want, and there's plenty of other features that can be added once you've got your base finished, such as status effects or bosses. So if we recap on these major points, Blabberf has managed to make a really fun and polished game without burying himself with a huge workload. By having a simple gameplay concept, quick art style, small asset list, and an open-ended amount of feature freedom, Gunrounds lands itself right in the sweet spot of game development. Easy to make, easy to add to, and fun to play. I've been playing a lot of Gunrounds lately, and it's high time I challenged you to a duel. Let's share the love and look at some other games that follow a similar framework. Downwell is a game where you fall down a well while blasting away enemies with a pair of gun boots. The setup is kind of the same as Gunrounds. There are 3 levels per biome, and in between each level you get to choose an upgrade. The controls consist of a directional pad and the jump button, which becomes the shoot button in the air. You reload by landing on the ground, and you regain health when you find one of these gun modules. Enemies with white tops can be jumped on, while enemies that are all red cannot be touched at all. Don't touch me! The art style in Downwell is very similar to Gunrounds. Low-res pixel art done in just 3 colors, black, white, and red. The asset list in Downwell also seems to be pretty small. You've got your wall tiles, your player, the projectiles, enemies, force fields, gun modules, and power-ups. Have the player choose a power-up in between each level, and have the area change every 3 levels, and you've got your base done. And Downwell is another game that leaves a lot of room for addition. You could add as many areas as you want, each with their own unique enemies and traps. You could add more gun types, more power-ups, and plenty more. You can also consider adding collectibles to push replayability. Both Downwell and Gunrounds feature extra palettes that you can unlock to change the game's colors. This is a feature that can be implemented super quickly, and it instantly adds a new layer of reward for the player to strive for. Let's look at another example. Despite being one of the most popular indie games from the last decade, Nuclear Throne is actually just about as simple as the other games in this video. The basic Nuclear Throne framework. Fuck. The basic Nuclear Throne framework is as follows. You're dropped into a procedurally generated room and you have to kill everyone. That's it. But like the other examples, this simple concept is made fun through variation. There are tons of enemies, tons of guns, and tons of characters. There's a lot of content here, but none of it takes very long to design. Want to make an enemy? Give him a sprite and 1 or 2 attacks. Want to make a gun? Draw it and decide how it shoots. In the end, you've got a top-down shooter that's jam-packed with content, and you did it all while keeping a reasonable scope.
I've been playing a lot of Gunrounds lately, and it's high time you met your demise.
Oh, Seeds, what are you doing up? It's way past your bedtime.
Face me, bitch.
Okay, that looks like somebody's getting cranky. Why don't we put you back to bed?
Put me down, you spastic shit-faced con artist. I'll fuck your mother for breakfast.
Making your first game can be a scary thing. You want to make something manageable, but you also don't want to make something boring. It's my firm belief that great games can be made out of small ideas. Gunrounds, Downwell, and Nuclear Throne are just a few examples of games that do simplicity right. There are plenty of other amazing games out there that capitalize on simple ideas, and if you follow this advice, maybe your game will be one of them. But before we say goodbye, let's recap on what we've learned today. The key to releasing your first game is to keep scope creep in check. Come up with your core idea and focus on making sure it's fun without the addition of multiple features. The right idea should be enjoyable to play from the moment it's prototyped. Make sure you choose an art style that doesn't take too long to produce. If every single character has 20 different hand-drawn animations, that might look beautiful, but it also might mean your game won't come out for an eternity, especially if you're working alone. Keep your asset list small. It should only take a few initial pieces to get your game fully functioning. And lastly, leave room for variety. Adding more environments, enemy types, weapons, items, and other things is an easy way to take your simple base and expand upon it with minimal added workload. One last thing, have fun. And don't be scared. You can do this. So before we go, I just wanted to mention a couple things. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. We have not only reached 1,000 subscribers, we have far surpassed it. We got like 50 new subscribers in I think like 4 days, and the biggest reason for that is because my game Gigasword was just recently featured on Alpha Beta Gamer. Their gameplay video of Gigasword got about 100,000 views in under a week, so that is absolutely incredible. Thank you guys so much for your interest in the game, and for everybody that came to this channel from finding the game over there. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Warm welcome to the channel, and thanks again to Alpha Beta Gamer for the support and for featuring the game over there. The demo for Gigasword is also still doing really well. It got about 2,000 downloads in its first month on itch.io, so big thank you to everybody who's played the game. Also, speaking of Gigasword, there is now an official Discord, so there's a link to that in the description. If you want to stay updated about the game, see any major announcements, or see fan art or memes about the game, that's going to be going on the Discord, so please join the server if you're interested. This video is brought to us, as always, by our wonderful and generous patrons, of which there are a few new names on the list as of now, so thank you so much to those of you who have just recently joined the Patreon. I think that's it from me. There's going to be more exciting Gigasword news coming up in the near future, but for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you learned something, and until then, take care, and may the Force be with you.
Stop thinking of new game ideas! Holy fuck. Yeah! Are you okay? Yeah! Holy fuck! I didn't know that was glass!
I'm just trying to find the video of that guy putting his dick in the other.